Hey guys, my name is H.Tran and I am doing a research on operation systems and firewall for my ISA 4220 class. This PowerPoint just talks about some specific hardening and research and vulnerabilities for two specific OSs. Uh, we were assigned Ubuntu 17.1 and Windows Server 2012. I know there's a lot more out there, but we specifically focus on those two for this presentation. Um, and let's just get right into it. So this first slide, we're talking about Windows Server 2012. It's one of Windows Microsoft's main server everyone uses to deploy uh, if you're running a lot of VMs or just any type of box that you want to connect to. It's easy to host multiple users on it. Um, so let's just get right into it. So first thing about just cleaning up the OS, you have your base configuration and you just want to get rid of all the bloatwares and softwares you don't need. You just want to have a nice base image. The less amount of open ports that you have connecting to the internet, uh, just software is trying to connect and find different license, the better. That way, there's a lot less surface that's touching the outside world. Um, you want to really find out when to install your updates. You don't want to like do it like every day in the morning. Yeah, pick a specific time when you don't have a lot of users on. Always gotta apply the service packs, up to date ones. However, sometimes new patches and updates can have bugs. They don't completely fix everything, and sometimes they could also just break the OS and you would have to revert back. So another big key features about Windows that I really like is they have group policies. GPOs essentially identify roles and specific security settings inside the Windows OS itself. You can isolate different users to have different specific tasks. This is really good because you don't want to give your local AD users admin rights. You don't want to give them domain control or like administrative rights for the network. You usually want to keep that they just have local admin rights on their specific box. So the first thing is restricting certain users' access. You want to know where your domain controllers and where your administrators are, and you have those people have access to your network shares and a specific part of the network. Everyone else, all your other users, only have local access or whatever file shares they need, and you don't want them crossing over on too many different other network drives. You want your local server to have a static IP. That way, all other boxes can communicate to it, and it would all be that same one. You want to set up your DNS server. It would be beneficial to have like maybe two DNS servers. That way, you can easily find that specific IP. Going back to GPOs, SCCM is a great tool for local admins to use to monitor and apply network settings, GPOs, and um, just installing softwares for your network users. That way, they really don't have administrative rights to download and just install anything they want. That way, in case their credentials get compromised, uh, we can just revert back to just having administrative rights on their box. And if their credentials get compromised, they don't have any specific rights for network shares or anything. System Center Endpoint's a good malware scanning tool. Windows installs in defaultly. It's pretty simple base. You just run the scan, and you see any adware, malware, bloatware, whatever, you can just remove it. I would also suggest finding a couple extra, just like maybe some other antiviruses out there. Windows comes with BitLocker configured. It's a way to encrypt your hard drive in case someone removes your hard drive. They can't have access to it unless you have specific the BitLocker key. and that's usually backed up into a certain directory that your administrators watch over. Um, EMET is another experience toolkit. It's free security toolkit used by Microsoft. It comes pre-installed. More other good like lockdown hardening features would be going to your BIOS and setting that up. Make sure no other users can log into your BIOS. Maybe perhaps just turn off your USB ports that won't be in use. That way, some random person that can't just go in there and stick something in your USB and run that application or anything. You want to turn off disk insert and just have good password protect characters. Have them just lock out after so many failed tries. That way, uh, people can't just brute force into your server. My last comment I want to make is this kind of relates back to GPOs. The government has a website DISA that has preloaded security templates, just group policies designed for classified use that a lot of users can take advantage of. I know that most people don't know a lot of security settings into it. That's why it's really important to know what you're implementing on your server first. Uh, it's really good to go line by line to know all the settings that you want to tweak, and you want to make sure that you have the correct users doing what on your system. This next slide talks about Ubuntu 17.1. This is what we were used for Linux. There's a chart right there that you can see. There's many different types of Linux OSs. Mostly they're all the same. It's just how the user wants to tweak their specific usage, any type of programs they're running. But in this case, we're running Ubuntu 17.1. First thing you want to do is you want to get your correct user and root access. You want to change the root key and make sure it's well encrypted, and only your specific administrators know that password. You don't want to give your user root access. You don't want to tell them the root password. You can give them like administrator access sudo commands. That way they can run just super users. After you get your account set up, applying updates and installing the correct packages. That again goes back in terms with Windows. You just want to uninstall all that bloatware, whatever package that you won't be using. You want to run your security updates. You want to get run your upgrades, specifically at a time that most users aren't online and whenever not a lot of people know about it. IP tables help you configure your network settings, your DNS, your gateway, your IP address. Again, you want to set a static IP address. That way, whoever's on your server that needs to communicate back with the box or whatever hosting servers, they know where to look, and it's always going to be there. Malware scanner goes back to antivirus. You want to find anything. You got CH Rootkit, RK Hunter, ISP Protect. There's many of them out there. Sophie antivirus. Just have maybe a third-party antivirus scanner to just keep on scanning, running, make sure you have no malware in your system. Going back to updates and upgrades, make sure I mentioned before you get the right package. I know there's a lot of different packages out there. Nginx, PHP, Mongo. They got your basic settings such as pair that you can just install. There's many different packages that comes pre-installed out there. SSH is a large, you want to configure that and you want to block access so no other users can have access to your server remotely. Anyone that wants to connect to it has to be on your side of the firewall. You open up certain inbound rules. That way you can't have an outside person just remoting into your server. So similar to BitLocker, Linux runs a LUX key. Essentially, it's just same thing. It's a hard drive encryption uh, passphrase that in order to log in, you have to have your passphrase first, and then you have your user account after that. Going back to SSH, you really want to disable root access on SSH, and um, you want to just have your permission files. You want to know who has permission to which file. Just run chmod and don't chmod 77 everything. That wouldn't be good practice. Again, you want to make sure that you disable your unnecessary services like I mentioned before. It really reduces your surface touching the internet. You want to just have service accounts that run particular services, and that's the only thing they do. That way your AD users don't have to run services on their account and be exposed. Jumping to next, I want to talk about firewalls for both Linux and Windows. Uh, Windows has a pre-installed firewall, makes it a lot easier just to configure your rules and set permissions from there. Default, it'd be good practice to deny everything inbound and outbound, and then from there you can configure what needs to be talking to what. You can configure where traffic should be flowing, what software and what applications has rights to, communicate to a licensed server or some other different server that you have. Do you have rights to, again, just going to back to specific users have right to which file shares or what network they have access to. I have principal least privileges on permission task right there. It basically talks what I just been talking about for user rights. Um, More good practice is logging and monitoring. You always want to make sure you have a backup list of all your activities that's been going in and out of your firewall, everything that's been passing through, and you want someone to look at that. You want someone to make sure everything is running correctly. That way, if you have something not running correctly, you can pinpoint it and you can see what's going on. You can try to isolate that. And let's hop over to what Ubuntu has. Essentially, Ubuntu has basically SE Linux, which is basically like a secured, enhanced Linux. They do have a UFW firewall. It makes it easier, but in this case, we weren't using UFW firewall. So essentially, you want to do similar practice you do with Windows. You want to restrict your root on SSH. You want to still continue monitoring and logging wherever's going through your firewalls. Disable unnecessary package wherever's trying to talk to the outside world. Also, try to limit that. Just make sure you know what services are running on your box. IP table helps set your static IP address. Again, 2 or more DNS servers should be used for redundancy, and you should test NSLookup to make sure the names resolution is working correctly. I haven't mentioned this, but if you're not going to use IPv6, turn it off. Make sure you set your host name, your domain, and your DNS server information. Yeah. So to wrap it all up, it's a lot harder to secure a Windows box compared to a Linux. You can't ever be fully secured, but in Linux, you can actually do a lot more security features and lock it down. But it's a lot harder in terms of usability, and the easiness of it is a lot more difficult. But if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Hope you guys really enjoyed my just research of everything I found on Windows servers and Ubuntu 17.1.